Hello, and welcome to another episode of I Didn't Know That, the show that may make you say, I didn't know that. I'm your host, Chad Hale, and on today's show, we will be discussing writing progress notes. Progress notes are written in order to document activities that occur with or on behalf of the person receiving services. Within our electronic medical record, ELMER, there are different types of notes: progress notes, contact notes, paraprofessional notes, and ACT notes, to name a few. Which type you use depends upon the service that you provide. Your access to ELMER is set up in such a way that you should only see a few options, those which are correct for you to use. If uncertain, please consult with your supervisor. I also need to mention that this is a companion video to the basics of SAL completion and the COVID SAL videos. If you've not watched those, please do, as they provide vital information for the accurate completion of any type of note. So, why do we complete progress notes? The short answer is because we're required to. When providing a service, we must document the occurrence of the service, describe how it was used, what was accomplished, and what we were working towards. In addition, we are responsible for providing a wide range of supports and services to those who qualify for our services. We also have the responsibility to be able to demonstrate that we have done so. This happens through progress notes. When considering the documentation that is in an individual's medical record, it should tell the story of treatment for the individual. Progress notes are an important part of that story, linking together all of the direct, like service delivery, and indirect or other types of supports that we provide in order to assist the individual. Like most areas of our work, there are rules for what make up an acceptable progress note. My goal today is to help you with a relatively easy way to meet all the requirements when writing a note. In an effort to do so, we will use the acronym CURP. Yes, I know, that's not even a real word. In full disclosure, I didn't even really come up with it. I've slightly modified an acronym that I picked up at a conference. I have attempted to come up with a better one, but as you can tell, that hasn't happened. Once you've gone through this training, if you are better with acronyms than I am, well, I would welcome an upgrade. Feel free to pass along your suggestions. At any rate, CURP stands for check, context, intervention, response, progress, and plan. Let's take them one at a time. Check. Every service provided must be done in order to help work towards the completion of at least one goal and one objective, which has been identified within the individual plan of service. Within the ELMER progress note, there are check boxes next to each of the goals and each of the objectives. An important step in the correct completion of a progress note is to check which goals and objectives you were helping the person work towards. Context. Document what the meeting was for, what the person's topics of concerns were, the overall focus of the contact. This doesn't have to be a word for word of what happened. Instead, it should be a brief summary to help the reader understand what happened within the contact. Intervention. What is it that you did? Your actions should fall within the definition of the service that you provided and that the actions that it describes. Auditors look at this in order to determine if we provided the service that we say we provided. So it's important that interventions as part of therapy look like therapy. Interventions within case management look like case management, and interventions within community living supports look like community living supports. Response. How did the individual serve respond? What was their participation within the service and to the intervention? Basically, what was the individual's part in the intervention and how they responded to it or participated in it? Progress. What progress towards goals and objectives are noted? This does not have to be present in every note, but should be evident at least once in a while. Some of the note types within ELMER have a specific narrative title, Progress Towards Goals and/or Objectives. When this is the case, progress should be documented within that narrative section. Lastly, we have plan. What next steps are there? Are there things that are to be followed up on by the writer or the individual or someone else? Note, it's not necessary to say something like, we'll meet again next week for TCM. If that's already in the individual plan of service, there's no reason to restate it. It's already been identified. This plan section is focused on tasks or transitions or homework, things like that. Usually it reflects next steps, which are a follow-up from the contact being documented. Also, in certain types of notes in ELMR, there is a specific narrative titled Future Plan Supports. When this is the case, plans should be documented within that narrative section. Following this outline will help you to document your activities while meeting various requirements. Depending on the type of note you use for documentation, there are additional fields for consideration. These additional fields do not require addressing every time you are writing a note. They should, however, be addressed anytime they are relevant to the contact. The narrative option, utilization information, is to be used when documenting the under or overutilization of a service. We are required to explain when services are not being provided as written in the individual plan of service. This is a primary place where you can address that. Another option that is listed is satisfaction. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services require that we document the satisfaction that the person served has with the services that they are provided. In order to do this correctly, the radio button of satisfied or unsatisfied must be selected, and then a quote from the individual is to be documented within the associated narrative section. Remember, this does not have to be completed each contact, but it does need to be done at least quarterly. The other place that this is documented is within the periodic review. Documenting satisfaction in either place meets the requirement. Next is a coordination of care/services, which is only a yes or no option. Any details should be documented within the primary narrative section. The last optional field is movement to other levels of care. This includes a yes or a no radio button and a narrative field. The narrative can be used to address any current or planned transitions within the individual's level of care, including information on the necessity of it. Lastly, I have a few tips for you. First, be mindful of repeating yourself. There's no need to do so. As redundant as ELMR sometimes is, there is no requirement of repetition within a single document. Be mindful of what you are saying. Say what is important once and move on. Second, progress notes should mostly be objective documentation. There is room for some subjective clinical opinion, but you should be mindful of it. Progress notes are not the place for thinking out loud as you are trying to figure something out. That would fall within the purview of psychotherapy notes. Instead, progress notes' purpose is to document your delivery of a service and documentation of additional activities that you have done with or for the individual served. Primarily, they should be written in an objective manner. Third, remember, others will read these, potentially including the person served. Keeping this in mind can help keep us on track in our writing. Lastly, be concise. Most progress notes should only take around 5 to 7 minutes to write. There are always exceptions to this, but they should be exceptions. Some cases require a greater attention to detail, including specifics of what was said, but most do not. For most, a summary is sufficient. Please work with your supervisor in regards to which cases you have that may require additional consideration. Thank you for your time and your attention. If you have any questions about this topic or would like to learn more, please contact me and I'll be happy to help you. In addition, if you have any suggestions for future topics, please pass them along to me. In the meantime, I encourage you to be curious and ask the hows and whys of what we do so that you may know more. After all, knowing is half the battle.